Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a different look at travel. Moving past that typical whirlwind tour idea, we're exploring how to really embrace a journey, make it more thoughtful, more balanced, especially for travelers over 50. Our mission for this deep dive. To unpack some fantastic insights on how you can truly soak in Vietnam, specifically without that feeling of being rushed off your feet or, just getting completely burnt out. And just before we jump into all these great ideas, a quick note from me: if you enjoy this deep dive, maybe consider buying me a coffee. You can just scan the QR code in the podcast cover art. It honestly makes a big difference in keeping this whole series going, so thank you.
And it's great we're talking about this slow travel idea. It really is quite profound, isn't it?
It feels like more than just a trend.
Oh, definitely. It's not just about, say, spending longer in one city. It's more about shifting your whole approach, your mindset. That's where you get those deeper insights. You really feel a place, you experience its soul, and crucially, you avoid that burnout.
That feeling of needing a holiday after your holiday.
Exactly. We've all been there. And what's really fascinating, I find, is how much more you seem to discover when you actually give yourself permission to do a bit less. It's where those genuine aha moments tend to pop up, like finally understanding a local custom just because you sat and watched for an hour instead of just, reading a quick paragraph about it.
I can definitely relate to coming home exhausted instead of refreshed.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, someone's dreaming of Vietnam. They want this slower pace.
Yeah.
Where do they even begin? Our sources seem to point north.
Yes, absolutely. Northern Vietnam comes up as a really wonderful starting point for this kind of travel. You've got the quiet rice fields, misty valleys, this ancient charm. It just feels right for easing in. The sources lay out a sort of gentle 7-day plan for the north. It really emphasizes easing into the whole adventure. So you'd start in Hanoi, days 1 and 2. And the advice isn't about ticking off a huge list of sites. It's more about just being in the city. Maybe exploring Westlake. It's very serene, great for a long walk, or just finding a quiet cafe. And the Temple of Literature, of course. For where to stay, they suggest looking at peaceful areas like Tay Ho. It's got those calming lake views, lots of little cafes.
Oh, nice.
Or Binh, which has wider, greener streets, more historical buildings. It gives you space to breathe, basically. Lets you soak in Hanoi's friendly pace, the amazing food, without that frantic feeling.
That ease-in approach sounds perfect, especially after a long flight, right? Sets a much calmer tone for the whole trip.
Yeah.
So after Hanoi, where does this northern journey take us?
From Hanoi, the suggestion is Ninh Binh for days 3 and 4. It's pretty convenient, only about 2 hours away, maybe by train or car.
Okay.
People often call it Ha Long Bay on land, and honestly, you can see why. Imagine these huge limestone karsts just shooting up out of bright green rice paddies. Key things to do there. Definitely a boat ride through the Trang An grottos. It feels less like a tour and more like, floating through a painting. Very serene. Also, biking through the rice fields, visiting Honolulu, the ancient capital. And here's a really practical tip from the sources.
Oh, good. Love practical tips.
Try to book your boat trips or main activities midweek if you can. It helps avoid the bigger weekend crowds, lets you really appreciate the quiet.
That makes so much sense. It gives you a bit more control over the vibe. I know how crowds can totally shift the feeling of a place. Okay, so Ninh Binh, and then for the last part of this northern loop for maximum tranquility.
Yeah, for that real sense of calm, you'd head to Luong. That's for days 5, 6, and 7. It's about another 3 hours from Ninh Binh, so a bit more remote. And it really captures that quiet appeal of the north. Think terrace rice fields cascading down the hills, little villages, just a slower rhythm of life.
Sounds lovely.
It's described as perfect for some gentle trekking, maybe staying in an eco-lodge with just stunning views, enjoying those cool, crisp mornings. The sources really highlight this part as ideal for, say, journaling or just resting, reading a book, properly reconnecting with yourself or with nature. It's that chance to pause.
Okay, so that northern loop really does sound perfect if you're after those gentle landscapes and, crucially, low travel stress. But what if someone wants that slower pace, but also maybe a bit more history, the smell of the ocean?
Right. Then the sources definitely point towards central Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah, the Central Coast offers a completely different feel. It's this unique mix of rich heritage, amazing food, and that refreshing coastal air. So for a 7-day slow itinerary here, you'd probably kick off in Hue, days 1 and 2.
The Imperial City.
Exactly. And the focus here is exploring the Imperial City, but maybe less as just a historical checklist and more imagining the stories held within those walls. Finding quiet cafes along the Perfume River, maybe just watching the boats. And for accommodation, they recommend looking for charming places, maybe with a cultural feel, like a garden homestay in Thubu Village. It's known for its pomelo orchards. That kind of thing really lets you feel the city's pulse from a calmer base.
Hue definitely sounds like stepping back in time. And from there, I
Oh.
guess the famous Hoi An.
Precisely. From Hue, you'd travel down to Hoi An for days 3, 4, and 5. And the journey itself can be part of the experience going over the scenic Hai Van Pass. You could do it by car, stopping for views, or even the train offers great perspectives.
Right.
Hoi An itself is just ideal for slow travel activities. Imagine doing a cooking class, really getting into the local flavors, enjoying those magical lantern-lit evenings, just strolling, maybe finding a quiet corner just to people watch, or even getting clothes tailor-made. That's a wonderfully unhurried process.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about the tailoring.
And again, for accommodation, to get away from the main bustle, the sources suggest looking in the quieter, sort of rural areas around Hoi An, like near the rice fields in Cam Than or the herb gardens of Trake. More authentic, more peaceful.
Hoi An really does capture the imagination, doesn't it? Sounds quite magical. How would you round out this Central Coast trip?
The itinerary usually finishes in Da Nang for days 6 and 7. And it's super easy, just a short hop from Hoi An.
Convenient.
Yeah. Da Nang is presented more as a place for relaxation, maybe some modern comforts. It's a nice contrast after the ancient towns. You could unwind on Mai Kay Beach, feel the sea breeze, or perhaps visit the Marble Mountains, explore the caves and pagodas there at your own speed. It's sort of a good way to end this section of the trip. Different vibe, but still keeping that relaxed, leisurely feel.
Okay, so this central route sounds like it could be ideal for couples, maybe, or solo travelers wanting that blend of culture, history, but also some Con Beach time and convenience.
Perfect. All right, let's head south now. Southern Vietnam. Often described as warm, tropical, buzzing with life. But our sources say you can definitely find real peace there too.
Absolutely.
The South offers yet another distinct flavor, but it can still be incredibly relaxed if you approach it with that slow travel mindset. The 7-day Southern itinerary usually starts in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City for the first couple of days.
Okay, the big city. How do you do that slowly?
Well, the key advice is to sidestep the most intense downtown hustle. Try staying in calmer districts, maybe District 3, which is more residential but still central-ish.
Yeah.
Or Thao Dien, which is popular with expats. It has almost a village feel, lots of cafes, greenery.
Interesting approach.
From that calmer base, you can then explore museums, definitely dive into the street food scene, which is incredible, enjoy rooftop views, but all at your own pace. It's about choosing your activities deliberately, observing the city's energy without letting it sweep you away.
Yeah, I can picture that. A quiet coffee somewhere less frantic before dipping into the buzz.
Yeah.
Okay, so from Saigon, the iconic Mekong Delta.
Yes. Next stop is the Mekong Delta for days 3, 4, and 5. The sources often recommend specific spots like Ben Tre, famous for its coconuts, or Can Tho, which has the big floating markets.
Right.
The experience here is really about immersing yourself in that riverside life. Navigating the floating markets early in the morning, exploring the coconut groves, maybe just taking lazy boat rides through the smaller canals. It's highlighted as being fantastic for photography, too. Just endless scenes of daily life on the water. It's very much about observing, experiencing, rather than rushing between sites.
That sounds incredibly peaceful and, yeah, immersive. A real chance to connect with how people live there. And for the grand finale, the ultimate southern serenity spot.
For that, the itinerary suggests hopping on a short flight from Saigon out to Con Dao. That's for days 6 and 7.
Con Dao. I've heard of it, but it sounds quite remote.
It is, and that's part of its appeal for tranquility. It's often described as a hidden gem. Think pristine beaches, maybe even a chance to see sea turtles nesting or hatching if your timing is right. There are also historical sites, like the old French prisons, which offer a very different, quite poignant perspective on Vietnam's past.
Wow, quite a mix.
It is. And for accommodation, the recommendations lean towards boutique eco-resorts or maybe charming seaside homestays. It really reinforces that feeling of being remote, relaxed, and experiencing something authentic. It's positioned as the perfect place to just unwind and reflect on the whole journey.
That genuinely sounds like a perfect ending. Remote, relaxed, and real. Okay, so we've mapped out these 3 fantastic regional slow travel itineraries. But let's get into the nitty-gritty now. How do you actually manage your pace? And when's the best time to go?
Right. These are the crucial practical bits, aren't they? Especially important for our over 50 listeners looking for comfort and ease. So for pace tips, the sources are quite clear. First big one. Limit yourself. No more than, say, 2 main locations in a 7-day stretch.
Only 2. That sounds radical compared to typical tours.
It does, but it's key for truly settling in. You avoid that constant feeling of packing, unpacking, moving on. You actually get to feel the place. Second tip, and this might be the most important, build in actual rest days.
Yes, you mentioned this. Days with literally nothing planned.
Exactly. No tours booked, no taxis hailed, just rest. Read a book, sit by the pool, wander locally with no goal, pure downtime.
You know, it's funny. I used to cram my schedule so tight. I'd genuinely come home eating another break. These rest days sound revolutionary, but so simple.
It's easy to fall into that trap, isn't it? Thinking you have to see everything. But these pauses are where the magic often happens. You let the destination sink in. You notice small details. Maybe you strike up an unexpected conversation. And the final pace tip is about embracing slow mornings. Don't rush out the door. Enjoy your coffee. Plan your day calmly. It means you have more sustained energy for the afternoons, which is especially helpful for avoiding that mid-trip slump.
That is such vital advice for actually enjoying the whole trip, not just enduring it. Okay, and what about timing? Best seasons for these different regions?
Good question. The weather varies quite a bit across Vietnam, so timing matters for comfort. For the north, so Hanoi, Ninh, Luong, the best window is generally October through April, drier, cooler.
Okay, north, October to April.
For the central coast hue, Hoi An, Da Nang, you're better off aiming for March through August. That's generally the dry season.
Central, March to August. Got it.
And then for the South Saigon, Mekong Delta, Con Dao, the ideal time is usually November through March. That's their dry season, less humidity.
South, November to March. Perfect. That gives a really clear guide for planning.
Exactly. So you can kind of pick your region based on when you actually want to travel, or vice versa.
It really hammers home that point, doesn't it? Slow travel is a mindset. Give yourself that permission to do less, and you really do often end up enjoying it so much more.
Yeah.
Right, now let's talk about something that honestly can make or break a trip, especially if peace and comfort are high on your list, where you actually sleep. Time for our tip corner on finding those clean, calm guest houses.
Yes, accommodation is absolutely paramount for a relaxed trip, especially for the slow traveler. You need a peaceful base. So what should you look for? Well, prioritize places in quieter neighborhoods, maybe even slightly rural settings if that appeals. Think less main road noise, more of a retreat feel.
Makes sense.
Seek out hosts who have good English skills mentioned in reviews makes communication easier. And look for consistently positive, helpful reviews. Don't just scan the star rating. Look for specific keywords in the feedback. Words like clean, quiet, comfortable bed. These are gold dust for slow travelers. They indicate what you're really after.
Focusing on those specific words, not just the score, that's a really smart tip. And where should people actually be looking? Are some websites better than others for Vietnam?
Yeah, the sources mention a few. Booking.com is generally solid, and they suggest using filters like very good for 2 travelers, tends to highlight places focused on comfort and quality for couples or pairs.
Okay.
Agoda is also mentioned as being particularly good for deals, specifically in Vietnam. Sometimes they have a wider range of local guest houses or smaller hotels.
Agoda, right. Good for deals.
And here's one that might surprise people. Don't overlook Facebook expat groups for the areas you're visiting.
Really, Facebook groups.
Yeah. Locals and long-term residents often share amazing, authentic recommendations there. You might find out about lovely, quiet, family-run places that aren't even listed on the big booking sites. It's tapping into that local knowledge.
Using local intel, that's the true deep dive approach, going beyond the standard guides. Love it. Okay, any final really actionable tip here? Something someone can do right now.
Yes. One really practical, powerful tip. Before you book anywhere, don't be afraid to just message the host directly.
Okay, and ask what?
Ask them a very simple question. Is it quiet at night?
That simple.
That's simple. It sounds basic, but think about it. How quickly they reply, how directly they answer, that tells you a huge amount. Not just about the potential noise levels, but also about how responsive and attentive they are as a host.
That's brilliant. Their answer or lack of one speaks volumes.
Exactly. If they reply quickly and say, yes, it's generally very peaceful, that's a great sign. If they kind of dodge the question or take ages to reply, well, you have your answer.
That's a fantastic practical takeaway. Gives you real agency before you even click book. Okay, so there we have it. 3 really well thought out 7 to 10 day slow travel itineraries for Vietnam, aimed especially at travelers over 50, looking for that deeper, calmer experience. packed with actionable advice too.
And it really feels like this kind of travel, whether you find yourself wandering through Hoi An's lantern streets at night or maybe just sipping tea quietly on a balcony in Luong, it genuinely gives something back to you, the traveler.
Hmm.
It stops being just about ticking things off a list and becomes more about, well, how you feel, the new perspectives you gain, maybe even what you learn about yourself when you slow down. It feels more like an investment in your well-being, not just another trip.
Absolutely beautifully put. So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe mull over as you plan your next adventure, or perhaps even just approach your next weekend. What new insights about travel, or maybe even about life itself, might you uncover if you intentionally choose to slow down? Just give yourself permission to be truly present in the moment. Travel slow, sleep well, and stay curious.